I've put the finishing touches to the programme for Zoom Flower Class, and I thought you might find it helpful or reassuring to see the kinds of containers I'm thinking of using. So I know what it's like. You sign up for a flower class, you have to take a huge leap of faith because you don't quite know what you've signed up to. And then you're thinking, well, I've paid for class, I've got to pay for flowers and greenery, and am I going to have to buy lots of stuff in order to make your arrangements? Well, the purpose of this video is to reassure you, without giving too much away of what we're actually going to be working on in class, just to see, well, to reassure you that you don't have to go out and buy anything special unless you particularly want to. There is only one thing, if you don't already have it, I would advise you go out and buy, and that is a pin holder. So we will be using a pin holder. If you haven't already got one, I would add that to your list of things to buy. Now, everything else in terms of containers, or there is one other thing as well, before I generally say that everything is going to be easy. We're also going to be using a lump of wood. So it might be an idea to keep an eye out for a lump of wood. So if you've got a wood burning fire, you've probably got a log pile and you've got loads of pieces of wood. So this is quite clearly a tree that's been chopped down and cut into sections. It may be that your piece of wood is a piece of wood left over from a DIY project, a fence post or something like that. It will need to be reasonably chunky. I'm going to have my piece of wood standing upright. You might decide to do your construction, your technique, with it lying on the side. If it doesn't fix square and steady, we can work around that. But that is the kind of thing I've got in mind. It's about the size, like everything I measure with bits of my body. It's about a hand-sized high. But you could go taller. I wouldn't go too much shorter because I think it'd be fiddly to work with. So that is the other tricky bit. But if, all else fails, you could use a really sturdy vase as a mock-up for your piece of wood. Imagine if you had a cylinder vase that was quite heavy and secure. We could do what we're going to do by attaching what we're going to attach onto your vase. I think I'm making this clear and not making it more confusing for you. So, to recap, the specialist items will be a pin holder and a lump of wood. Now, everything else can either be a traditional vase flower arranging container, or it may well be something that you've got in your kitchen that you can repurpose. So I've got a collection of things in front of me, and I'm in no particular order because I haven't quite decided what I'm going to be using on the day. My thought is I'm going to have it all sparkling, clean glassware. Emphasis on the clean, Julie, because I can see that some of these bits and pieces need a really good wash to bring back their sparkle. And like you, I'm sure you think, I know I've got a container that particular shape somewhere. There's a couple of things that I wish I had, and when I've got more time between now and the beginning of class, I'm going to have another look for. But I'm quite good at decluttering things, and I'm just wondering, did I get rid of that vase or not? So I can show you the kind of things that you need to be on the lookout. And once you've signed up for class, you will be getting a handout that does explain everything in more detail. So the first thing is what I'm calling a bud vase. Quite clearly, this is a tall drinking glass. When I say bud vase, it needs to be a little bit wider than a bud vase. So traditionally a bud vase would be for single stem flowers, but it's not quite as big as a conventional wide-mouthed vase. So for this, I would say I'd quite like it to be a tiny bit bigger, if I'm honest. So I will be keeping a lookout in my flower arranging stash whether I've got actually a straight-sided glass vase, which is just marginally bigger. So this one is about the diameter of my little finger. Perhaps I really wanted to have it the diameter of my forefinger. So have you got a tall glass at home? I'm also going to be using this little Sunday dish. So this is what I mean about my glassware needing a little bit of a clean. I think it's been through the disher one too many times and it's gone a little bit cloudy. So a small round dish. Now, I am on the lookout for a square dish, which I'm absolutely certain I've got, and my one is in acrylic. You know, the acrylic that looks like glassware. I cannot find it. So I've been searching in my cupboards, and the nearest I've come up to is this Pyrex bowl which we make our lasagna in. Ideally, in my mind, I wanted it square, but needs must. So have you got something like that? And then when I was digging that bowl out, I found this little nesting bowls, which when my daughter was little, we used to do child-sized lasagnas in this. And I'm wondering whether actually this might be a good substitute, this little glass dish, for my Sunday glass. So I'm showing you examples of what I might be using, but whether I actually use them on the day is another matter altogether. So I've got this little nesting bowl and then this bigger rectangular dish at the end, which I may or may not use if I decide not to use my big lasagna bowl. So clink, clink, clink. Then on the subject of dishes, I did find, again, going with that rectangular square theme, that I've actually got this kept in its box. And that is a sort of cubey vase. Actually, if you've got one of those cube vases, which again is in acrylic or glass, that might be a good option. So that was sort of my square vases. And then going a little bit bigger and more conventional vases, I'm going to be using what I've called a rose bowl, and this is the one that needs cleaning. Again, it's not overly large, so it's sort of, you know, I can cuddle it in my hand. So you might know this is a sort of goldfish bowl kind of vase. So I'm going to use that. I've then got this glass one as well, straight it up and down. I put this to one side. I think I'm actually going to use it. I'm just thinking that it's quite tall, and whether it's going to look out of proportion, what we're going to do with it. But that, again, to give you the idea of the kind of vases that we're after. And then here is a nice chunky vase. So I bought this as a floristry container, but it may be that you might have a trifle bowl, you know, a nice, up to you whether you use your cut glass trifle bowl or a salad bowl. I'm just thinking, because what we're going to be doing is going to be quite slimline, quite pared back, quite technique orientated, that if you have your cut glass trifle bowl, it might give mixed messages. You're going super modern in one sense and then quite traditional in the other, and where there's the clash. But obviously, don't go out and buy a new bowl if you can make do. Class is going to be about practicing their techniques and, you know, getting the creative juices going. So it doesn't really matter if you haven't got the right stuff. And the next one is that with the pin holder, you need something to put the pin holder in. So here I've broken my rule of not having clear glass, because I've got this dish here, which you may have seen before in one of my thrift haul videos. It's a container that goes like this with a glass frog in it. So I'm thinking if I upend the little pedestal foot, I can attach my flower frog in there. But it doesn't have to be this. It could be a saucer that you've got. And actually, while we're here, another specialist item for you. I've got a metal drinking straw, and it might be quite helpful when for the arrangement we're going to be making. You don't have to go out and buy a straw, but I think it would be helpful if you could poke things down to hold them in place. So that's just an added extra. And then I thought, well, while I've got my smoky glass bowl out there, I've also got the top bowl as well, and that might be a substitute in the end for this bowl here. So it's all a little bit up in the air. So I don't know what you do when you come to class, whether you work from week to week and just wing it from week to week, or whether you want to have everything aligned and ready so you know what you're doing. But at least you'll be getting, once you've paid for class, you'll be getting your class handouts ahead of time, and you can work the way that fits best with you. But hopefully I'm just being able to reassure you a little bit that we're not using anything that's totally out of the ordinary. And the things hopefully you may be able to find around the home. So pin holder is important. The lump of wood, whether that's a piece of actual log or whether it's a piece of piece of timber, as in DIY projects. The only other thing I haven't shown you, because I haven't been up in the loft to get it, is a straw wreath base that we'll be using, and we are going to be making a Himalayan wreath, which uses paper straws. But again, all those added extras that I will give you a list of everything you need before you come along to class. But I thought it might be helpful to know what you need in terms of containers. So if you've got any questions, you can ask them in the comments underneath this video, or if you're in my free Facebook group, you can ask me questions there and I'll be pleased to help you. So I can't wait to see you in class. So it starts on Tuesday the 27th of September. If you are booking now, nice and early, you will get your early bird discount. And if you want to know more about that, do get in touch by either commenting under the video or contacting me through social media. And I will send out the Zoom link and all the other information you need beforehand. So that's all for me for now, and I'll catch up with you another time.